My name is Damon Brown of DamonBrown.net, and I am a coach, I am a supporter, and I'm an advocate of the side hustler, the solopreneur, and the non-traditional entrepreneur. Today we're talking about a Bill Gates quote that will actually set up a framework not only for this upcoming year, but also for the next decade. Bill Gates, as you probably know, is a billionaire many times over. He actually signed a pledge to give away most of his money to charity since he founded or co-founded Microsoft and retired as chairman a number of years ago. He's actually gone to more philanthropy with his wife Melinda and done all kinds of different things. And so he has good insight as far as the 40-year career that he's had so far and how to look about where you're going to go in the future. This is what he says. We always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years and underestimate the change that will occur in the next 10. Don't let yourself be lulled into inaction. Again, we always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years and underestimate the change that will occur in the next 10. Don't let yourself be lulled into inaction. This is killer for me. If you're familiar with any of my work from the Ultimate Bite-Sized Entrepreneur to Bring Your Worth to the upcoming Build From Now, all available at DamonBrown.net and other platforms, then you know that I'm really about having a vision for the future and leading into that strategy. Actually, me talking to you is part of my strategy for the upcoming 2 to 10 years. So I'm excited to be part of the process with you. But it comes down, I think, to two actionable things that I think Mr. Gates is on top of. First of all, if you're looking at the 10-year period instead of the 2-year period, then it forces you to set up systems rather than getting into motions or habits. Again, if you're looking at the long range, 10 years, then it forces you to build systems rather than working on just your emotions or your habits. Particularly your emotions part is the issue. What I mean by that is if you want to eat better and you say, okay, tomorrow I'm only going to eat toast and white foods or whatever the thing is, how long is that going to work? Okay, you do that on Tuesday, but what about Wednesday? What about in February? What about this fall? What about 2 years from now? What about 5 years from now? What about when you go on vacation or you travel somewhere? What about when you're eating out? It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. But if you're thinking 10 years, you can say, okay, well, how about I go ahead and get a membership to a food basket thing so fresh food is sent to me every month through like a co-op or I forget what the term is when they have the farm fresh produce that comes through and it's slightly abused or slightly damaged. Like it's like that's kind of sustainable. Because as long as those things, the farm co-ops or whatever are available, then you can have healthy food come to you every week or every month or every day, whatever the system is. That's actually a system. Habits are somewhere in between where it's like, I'm going to have this habit and get into this routine. But routines can wear on us. And so I like systems more than routines because I tend to get bored. Which, if you look at the lineage of my career, you can go to my LinkedIn, just look up Damon Brown. You'll see a lot going on there. Or even go to DamonBrown.net and look at my history. I began as a journalist when I was a wee lad. Got 2 degrees in journalism. Became a regular writer for Playboy, the New York Post, and a lot of those folks. Went over to Silicon Valley, became the main reporter for the New York Post, talking about Silicon Valley. And then I became an entrepreneur. And then I became a TED speaker. And then I became a coach, and then I'm selling my company. And then I became a dad. And now I'm doing this. And so having those routines, at least for me, isn't enough. I need to have some type of motivation beyond that. I need to have systems. One system I have is that I meditate every morning and often every night for 5 minutes. That's it. That's a sustainable system. I talk about that briefly in the Ultimate Bite-Sized Entrepreneur, which is a bigger discussion about systems. And so that's a system where it's like, I know I'm going to do this no matter what. It's something I can carry with me if I'm traveling, because I do a lot of public speaking. So we're sheltering in place as I record this. But when I was doing a lot of speaking before we sheltered in place, then it's like I could be in a hotel room. I was in Bogota, Colombia, a few years back doing one of the major talks there at this event. And I was meditating right in my hotel room. I can take that with me. So if you're thinking about 10 years instead of even 2 years or even like a year, then you have to think about systems. It can't just be some sloppy put together thing you're gonna push through. It becomes a marathon, not a sprint. So number one, thinking about building systems rather than doing habits, or worse, just creating quick motions that you think you're gonna muscle way through. Number two, and Bill Gates I'm sure knows about this, is because of his buddy Warren Buffett, is the leverage compound interest. Leverage compound interest. I talk about this in all my books, but I talk about it most prominently in my newest book, Built From Now: How to Know Your Power, See Your Abundance, and Nourish the World. Again, it's January 2021 when it comes out on the 28th. Come through to DamonBrown.net before then and pre-order it, and you get a special gift, or get it on any of the platforms after the fact. I talk about that where when we talk about compound interest, obviously we're usually talking about money, where you put a dollar in the bank and then you get 1% interest, so it becomes $1.01. And then you get interest on that, and it becomes $1 and maybe 1.5 cents or something like that. And it keeps multiplying, and at a certain point, it's going to get so big that the interest is going to start gaining interest. And that's when you really start making money. I love taking that same principle and applying it to other things. It actually came from a conversation I had with Laura Vanderkam, who's an excellent expert on time management. That's her thing, as much as the non-traditional entrepreneur is my thing. She has a great book called Off the Clock. It's my favorite book of hers. I've just did my 25th book. I think she's as prolific as I am, so she has a lot of books out there. This is my favorite, though. I'm actually interviewed very briefly in here, but she talks about this concept called time dividends. And if you're familiar with the stock market or investments or anything like that, dividends means that a stock or certain things goes up in value, and at the end of that quarter or that year, then all the people who own that stock get a dividend. A dividend is a little check. If you live in Alaska, which I have some friends that live there, depending on what the situation is, if you live in Alaska, every year you'll get a little dividend check based on the oil that's being taken out of the ground, because the ground is so fertile. And so I think every citizen in Alaska, or most of the citizens in Alaska, or at least certain areas of Alaska, get a dividend check. Take that idea and then apply it to your work. Apply it to your craft. Me talking to you right now, even though I have my rough edges, it's based on me doing 4 TED Talks. It's me doing, a multiple of that in keynotes and speeches. It comes from me having one-on-one coaching sessions with hundreds of people. And if you, put you make it more broad, before we were sheltering in place, thousands of people that I connected with on stage. Like that, all that comes out now. That's why I can talk to you like this. And then, when we talk a year from now, this speaking will be even more powerful, because there's a compound interest in that, and that builds on that. That's what Bill Gates, I believe, is talking about. Whatever craft, whatever thing you want to work on, people underestimate and say, I'm going to do this thing really hard for like a week. And if it doesn't shine, then it's not meant for me. No, not quite. Imagine if you did something for 10 years. And a lot of people that I coach, they have that sense of regret, or they're working through that sense of regret, where they say, wow, like I was obstructing myself. Imagine if I would have got started 2, 3, 4 years ago. That doesn't mean that you should feel shame or guilt about it. That's not my point. My point is that there's often not a better time than today. So again, me starting this conversation, I'm starting this conversation now because me waiting till tomorrow isn't going to make things any better. And it's not going to improve my skills. And absolutely, it won't allow me to serve you, because if I don't start, I'm not serving anybody. So think about that as you come up with your strategies and your goals. I happen to be recording this on New Year's Day. And so if you're in that mindset, or if you're kind of looking to the precipice of what's your next quarter, next year, next decade, you have a major birthday, whatever, or just thinking about what you have, number one, work on the systems rather than just the quick hits. Come up with a system. Again, I got 5 minutes in the morning, and my whole family knows I'm meditating. Daddy's meditating, 5 minutes. They know that. They know my system. And they're little kids. They already know the system. They know the routine. But it's not just a routine. It's actually something that's built into the framework of my day, which I feel like is a little bit more powerful than a routine. The second part of it is to make sure that you leverage compound interest. And I don't mean just financially, but also working on your craft. You put in those proverbial 10,000 hours, and suddenly your stuff's going to start to shine. And people recognize that you're shining, and you actually will be able to serve them in a way that you might not even be able to dream of 10 years from now. Think about where you were 10 years ago. I think about that, and I was a whole different person, and I'm thankful for that. So wouldn't you want to feel that feeling 10 years from now as well? Right? If you want more insight into the resources that you have and how to maximize whatever capacity you have right now, again, to build from now, as my new book says, go over to buildfromnowquiz.com. Buildfromnowquiz.com. Obviously, it's based on the new book, Build From Now. And we talk about the 4 resources: focus, agility, time, and energy. And which of those resources are the strongest for you and how you can build based on that strength and the archetypes that I came up with during my many years of coaching and working with hundreds, again, maybe even thousands of entrepreneurs at this point. It's like 3 or 4 questions, multiple choice. It's free. Hundreds of y'all have taken it, which I still appreciate, and it will give you good insight. If you haven't checked out the book, it will give you a good framework to think about your resources. If you plan on getting the book, or you pre-ordered, or you already got the book, then it'll give you good insight into going deeper into the book. And again, the book is pretty deep into those 4 ideas: focus, agility, time, and energy. And lastly, if you come over to DamonBrown.net, you can pre-order the book, like I mentioned, if it's before January 28th, 2021. Get the t-shirt, get your Bring Your Worth mug based on my previous book, and just have a good time with me and get as much insight as you can. So whatever you're doing, remember to always bring your worth, and that you can build from now. Take care.